I always believed I was an orphan. The man who paid for my life was called Mr. Sterling, and I grew up beside his daughter, Clara, who was 3 years older than me. I studied like my life depended on it and got into Northbridge University, not only because I wanted a future, but also because I wanted to stay near Clara, the woman I had loved in secret for years. For 4 years, I lived in the guest house of her family's estate. I tried my best to take care of her and stay close to her, hoping one day I would matter to her. But she always kept her distance. To her, I was only the younger boy who had grown up around her, nothing more than a little brother. In the end, her life was decided by a business marriage meant to protect a family deal. It was never a happy marriage. While she drowned herself in work, her husband was busy keeping another woman on the side. After graduation, I left New York City. That was when my birth parents finally found me. But going into their lives felt like walking into a disaster. They already had a son, an adopted boy named Adrian, and he was a master at acting innocent while secretly turning people against others. In the end, I died alone in a prison cell after Adrian framed me for a crime I did not commit. The coldness of the family I had once hoped to belong to destroyed the last bit of hope in my heart. My last wish was simple. If I got another life, I never wanted to meet any of them again. I did not need family. I did not need friends. I only wanted to be left in peace. Then I opened my eyes and realized I had been reborn. This time, the story had changed. I woke up in the summer before my senior year at Northbridge University, right before my final internship. I had 1 more year before graduation. My plan was the same as before. The day I got my degree, I would leave New York. But this time, I would never return to the group home in Denver. That meant my birth parents would never be able to find me. I had no desire to stay in New York, and I definitely was not going to Washington, D.C., where they lived. Both cities were only reminders of my suffering. But disappearing costs money. A quick look at my bank account showed just over $7,000, which was all I had earned from recent internships. If I wanted to disappear for real, I needed a lot more. Luckily, my memories from my previous life were still very clear. I remembered every shift I had worked at a sports bar, and more importantly, I remembered the exact results of every match in that year's World Cup. Maybe that was one of the gifts of being reborn. Every detail of my past life was carved into my mind. That memory gave me the strength to cut all ties for good. I downloaded a betting app, linked my account, and used the World Cup to build my money. Match after match, my balance kept growing. By the time the tournament ended, I had quietly turned that small amount into nearly $300 million. Even the bank manager started calling me, offering private wealth services and all kinds of investment plans. That summer, Clara worked herself to the bone. She left before sunrise and came home long after dark. I knew it was an important time for her. She was leading the effort to push Sterling Enterprises into New York's top 50 companies. One evening, the doorbell rang. It was her birthday. I had spent the whole afternoon cooking all her favorite food, and I had even baked a cake by myself. This would be the last birthday I ever celebrated for her. After graduation next year, I would be gone, and her birthday would become just another ordinary day. But when I looked at the clock, it was already 11:59 p.m. I opened the door and saw a man helping her inside. I recognized him at once from my past life. His name was Nolan Rivers, her college classmate and now her business partner. He was another man who had lost in love, just like me. I did not greet him. I did not invite him in. I simply took Clara from his arms and closed the door in his face. He stood there shocked, almost catching his nose in the door. I could tell I looked colder than I felt. Inside, Clara was not graceful at all in her drunken state. Or maybe she was only like that with me. I helped her to her room, laid her on the bed, removed her shoes, and covered her with a blanket. Like I always did, I left a glass of honey lemon water on her nightstand for when she woke up thirsty. The next morning, Clara woke up with only a blurred memory of my call from the afternoon before, when I had told her that I would make dinner. She had forgotten all about it because she had been caught up in a party with her team. Clara Sterling never apologized. She never admitted defeat. She drank the honey water, carried the glass downstairs, and found the dining room spotless. The trash had already been taken out. The food I had spent the afternoon making, apart from a few bites I had tasted myself, had all been thrown away. I was just coming out of my room with my backpack, ready to go to campus. "Morning," I said as I walked past her. She looked at me with a flicker of confusion. Something about me felt different today. We had barely seen each other all summer because she had been so busy. She probably thought I was angry because she had missed dinner. She had also completely forgotten that yesterday had been her actual birthday. Her official records listed a different date because her school records had been changed so she could start a year early. Then an idea came to her. She decided to come to Northbridge University at noon and take her little brother out to lunch. After all, she was a respected alumna. When noon came and I was leaving my lecture hall, Clara saw me. She also saw the group of girls who had stopped me to ask for my social media, and she saw another beautiful girl confessing her feelings for me right in front of everyone. A strange and bitter feeling twisted in Clara's chest. Without thinking, she walked over and linked her arm with mine. I started to pull away, then stopped when I realized it was her. "Clara, what are you doing here?" I asked, surprised. "I came to take you to lunch." "What's all this?" "It's nothing. Just some classmates." "Don't worry about them," I said, guiding her away. "Come on, I'll treat you." "What do you want to eat?" "Let's go to the old place," she said. "I haven't eaten there in years. I kind of miss it." "Clara, that place is a bubble tea and fried chicken shop now. New owners." "Oh. Then what about the cafe just off campus?" "That works." She almost dragged me away, but the scene did not go unnoticed. Someone took a photo of us and posted it on the campus gossip page. "Who is that elegant woman? I need details in 10 minutes. Dream on." "She's on the distinguished alumni page. She's number 7. "Wait, that's Clara Sterling, the CEO of Sterling Enterprises. She's basically the campus legend. Ethan being supported by a rich woman. I heard him call her sis. So the quiet Ethan is actually a secret rich kid. No way. I've known Ethan since freshman year. He has worked a dozen part-time jobs. A rich kid would never do that. But her last name is Sterling and his is Prescott. He can't be some hidden heir." Just like that, the quiet campus life I had built for myself was destroyed by Clara's sudden appearance. I ignored the gossip online. Even when my best friend Chris called, I told him to forget it. There was no point explaining anything. In a few days, people would move on. We sat in a quiet corner of a diner and ordered our food. We both silently agreed not to talk about the night before. "Ethan, have you found an internship yet?" Clara asked. "Why don't you come work at Sterling Enterprises?" I refused right away. In my previous life, that was exactly what I had done. And at the end of that internship, I met Victoria Bennett from Bennett Corporation in Washington, D.C., my biological sister. She recognized me from the crescent-shaped scar on my hand and the small heart-shaped birthmark behind my ear. The scar had come from a fall when I was a child, and she had been the one supposed to watch me at the time. There was no way to mistake me. This time, I had no intention of returning to that cold, loveless family. They had spent more than 10 years looking for me, but it had always felt like they were chasing a ghost, only trying to soothe their own guilt. For years, they had lived happily with Adrian, the adopted boy my age. In my past life, I had tried so hard to belong. I gave them all my love, and all I received in return was pain and bitter memories. In the end, Adrian framed me by claiming I sold company secrets. He spent a full year poisoning them against me. By the time the accusation came, no one listened to me. No one believed me. Whenever anything went wrong, I became the first person they blamed. They sent me to prison. My own sister, Veronica, who was a lawyer, personally entered my guilty plea and gave up my right to appeal. I caused trouble in prison just to get their attention, but no one cared. No one visited. Then, on Adrian's orders, some prisoners staged an accident. A sharpened toothbrush damaged my artery, and I bled out before I could be saved. Waking up here changed everything. This time, I could live a peaceful life without parents or family. Before I was reborn, I would have accepted Clara's offer immediately. But now, there was no chance. Working at her company would only mean watching a parade of men trying to impress her. That would be too painful, and it would only make things awkward for her. So I lied and said, "The university already arranged my internship. I won't be able to come to your company, but thank you." She did not push the matter, though I could tell she noticed I was no longer clinging to her the way I used to. Honestly, her sudden visit surprised me as much as it surprised her. In my first life, she only offered me that internship when we ran into each other at home. But this time, her surprise visit gave her a glimpse of my life at Northbridge. She saw that the younger boy who had always stayed in her shadow had changed. My rejections were so smooth that the girls did not even seem hurt. It was almost as if saying no came naturally to me. The colder I acted, the more attention I got. Girls started crowding around me like moths around a flame. Some even made bets on who could get my number. It was exhausting. For my internship, I had a classmate's family company sign off on my hours. In reality, I spent that time in Stonebridge Quarter, a historic district in the city, buying property. I spent $130 million on 5 connected courtyard buildings and the 6 storefronts attached to them. The storefronts stayed rented out. The courtyards, however, were my real project. I planned to tear down the walls between 4 of them and turn the whole place into a boutique hotel. The 5th courtyard would become my private home. I had been there in my previous life. It was a busy tourist area, a historic little world inside the city. Business was always strong. It was the perfect place to hide in plain sight. Clara and the Bennetts were the last people on earth who would choose a place like that for a vacation. The 6 storefronts, managed by a property agent, brought in a steady monthly income. Since my degree was in architectural design, I created the hotel plans myself. I wanted a mix of modern luxury and historic beauty, keeping the old facades while fully renovating the interiors. The renovation took a full year and cost another $40 million. In the end, 4 old courtyards became elegant modern spaces, and the 5th became a private residence just as luxurious. Everything was fitted with the newest technology. I even built a pool. During my senior year, I split my time between classes and Stonebridge Quarter, using my internship as a cover story for Clara. When the hotel opened, I told no one. I listed it on Airbnb, Booking.com, and Expedia. Its location and unique design made it an instant success even with the high prices. I had already hired a professional management team to run the place. The hotel had 30 deluxe rooms, 10 family suites, and 6 luxury suites, each with its own design. The cafe and restaurant were staffed by trained chefs and servers. I even bought a smaller courtyard nearby and turned it into dorms and a cafeteria for the staff. Over that year, I won another $130 million through sports betting. By the end of the next year, the future knowledge I had carried from my past life would be used up. But it did not matter anymore. I already had enough. The hotel and my other properties would support me for the rest of my life. I kept buying more storefronts in the old town, and soon they added more than $300,000 a month to my income. Even if the hotel made no profit, the rental income alone could keep it running forever. I also donated $10 million to the group home where I had grown up. I told the old director that I was moving abroad permanently. It was a small lie, but it helped keep the Bennetts from tracing me through the home. In my previous life, their private investigator had found me there after my sister did. This time, I wanted them searching overseas while I lived quietly right under their noses in New York. A small smile touched my lips. I was honestly proud of myself. In this life, I only wanted peace. Love and family could stay far away from me. Graduation day arrived. I wore my cap and gown, took photos with my classmates, and was about to leave when a few girls from my department called my name and asked for a picture. I was about to refuse, but then I saw Clara standing in the distance. In my first life, she never came to my graduation. A strange warmth spread through my chest. I no longer expected anything from her, but I was still happy to see her. So I agreed to the girl's request. I had no idea why she was there. I had not told her about the ceremony. Over the past year, we had barely seen each other. She had been busy with work, and I had been busy building my new life and my new home. I had slowly been distancing myself from her on purpose. I used to make her breakfast every morning. She never ate it, but it was always on the table when she left. For the past year, that table had stayed empty. I had been so busy with my internship that I did not even spend Christmas with her and her father. My absence clearly unsettled Mr. Sterling. After Christmas, he spoke to me privately. He seemed relieved that I had accepted reality and moved on. He even offered to help support my story about moving abroad. I politely refused any more money from him. This time, I had not begged Clara to come to my graduation. I had not met my biological sister Victoria through an internship. So why was she here? Apparently, Clara had realized over the past year that she had grown used to my constant care and attention. My sudden absence, combined with my busy schedule, felt wrong to her. A few days earlier, she overheard some interns at her company talking about graduation, and she suddenly remembered me. On impulse, she came. And then she saw me surrounded by bright, beautiful girls asking for a photo. Something painful twisted in her chest. He's popular, she thought. He's handsome too. Why did I never notice that before? She walked over and looped her arm through mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. Who are you? One of the girls asked, sounding suspicious. Hello, Clara said with a bright smile. I'm Ethan's sister. I came to see my little brother graduate. Oh, you're the beautiful sister Ethan always talks about, a boy nearby said. It's great to meet you. You look even better in person. Really? Clara's smile widened. My Ethan talks about me. Of course. He always says you're amazing and beautiful. Then you should take a picture with Ethan too, another girl said. Just as I was about to pull Clara away, she laughed and said, okay. That simple moment felt strangely important. For the first time in a long while, something inside me flickered awake. With Chris's help, we took several photos using both her phone and mine. The pictures of her standing beside me, her arm around me, looked natural. They looked like they belonged to a different life. Chris knew everything about me. He probably thought this was a way to make one of my wishes come true. The girl who suggested the photo was his girlfriend. I was thankful to both of them, but I still did not tell them my plans. I did not want to drag anyone into my mess. The day after graduation, Clara left for a business trip to Washington, D.C., just like in my previous life. I called Mr. Sterling to say goodbye, then took an Uber to JFK. I bought a one-way ticket to France, boarded the plane, and landed in Paris. From there, I bought a used car that did not need immediate registration transfer. I drove it across the border and found a smuggling route I had once heard about from a prisoner in my first life. Just as he had said, the route was wide open at that time of night. It was a blind spot in the system. I abandoned the car and crossed back on foot. Within hours, I was back in the United States. Using a new set of identity documents I had bought on the black market while renovating the hotel, I purchased a Range Rover and drove back to New York. The whole trip took more than a week. At last, I reached my new home in Stonebridge Quarter, the place where I planned to spend the rest of my life in peace. I never expected Clara to cut her trip short. When she returned to New York and found me gone, she ignored her father's objections and hired private investigators to find me. The Bennetts in Washington, D.C., also traced me back to the group home, which eventually led them to Clara. When they learned I had vanished, they brought in their own investigators and told them to work with Clara's team. With the Bennett's resources, my sports betting money, and my property purchases in Stonebridge Quarter, my trail was uncovered much faster than I expected. I had thought I had hidden everything well, but they found me through the digital traces I had left behind. There I was in my new home, looking at the sleek motorcycle and electric scooter I had just bought. Driving through the narrow streets of the historic district was a nightmare. I left the Range Rover in a garage outside the area, but I still needed something small to get around town. The scooter was practical, but I could not resist the racing bike I saw in a local dealership window. Money was no issue, so I bought it for myself. The storefronts in Stonebridge Quarter needed very little attention from me. The rental agency handled everything, and the income stayed steady. The hotel was doing better every month. We were averaging an 82% occupancy rate, which already made it profitable. Once I added the cafe, restaurant, and gift shop income, the business was doing even better than I had expected. But my good mood disappeared 3 months later when Clara and the entire Bennett family showed up at my hotel. I tried to slip out through the back, but Clara caught me. She looked exhausted, fragile, and worn down in a way I had never seen before. A feeling I thought I had buried rose inside me again. Pity. Concern. In 2 lives, she had been the only person I ever truly loved. It turned out that after I left, Clara had been haunted by nightmares. She dreamed of my first life, of me returning to Washington, D.C., of ending up in prison a year later, of trying to visit me and discovering that her husband had cheated on her. She dreamed of me dying in that cell. She dreamed of losing everything, her company, her child, and her sanity because of her husband and his mistress. The nightmares tortured her and kept her awake at night. She could not understand why the Ethan in her dreams ended up in prison. She began to wonder if the dreams were warnings, especially after her husband's family started pushing for a business alliance with Sterling Enterprises. Her father was even considering the arrangement. My disappearance was the one thing that did not happen in those dreams, and that made her question everything. Then, when the Bennett family from Washington, D.C. came looking for me, she began to believe the dreams were real. When I stood in front of my 3 biological sisters, I stayed calm and distant. I neither confirmed nor denied anything. I simply ignored them. That made them furious, but they did not leave. Instead, they secretly collected things with my DNA on them and sent them for testing. With their resources, the results came back quickly. The paternity test confirmed it. I was Ethan Bennett, the long-lost son of the Bennett family. The news brought joy to everyone in the house except Adrian. Without me in the picture, he had almost secured his position in the family. He was about to be given a place at Bennett Corporation when the real son suddenly returned. In my first life, the day I was brought home, they had planned a welcome banquet for me. But Adrian had fallen from a 2nd-story window and broken his leg, stealing all the sympathy and attention. My parents stayed at the hospital with him all night. My 3 sisters took turns caring for him, and the welcome banquet was never mentioned again. But this time, I had no intention of going back to a house where I had never felt warmth. Even after my sisters returned with the DNA report, I ignored them. They had helped Adrian destroy me once. Even after I died in prison, they had shown no remorse. This time, I wanted nothing to do with them or their family. But Clara was different. She was the only woman I had loved my entire life. And just when I thought I had finally given up, she came back into my story again. My birth parents and Adrian also came from Washington, D.C. and booked rooms in my hotel. They were not allowed into my private courtyard, though. Only Clara was. For 2 days, she used her older sister authority and moved into my home under the excuse of taking care of me. At the hotel, Adrian tried his usual innocent act to win my parents' sympathy. But this time, he chose the wrong place. This was my territory. The public areas had security cameras everywhere, and so did my private residence. His attempt to hurt himself and blame me was caught on video, and he ended up in the hospital for a week with no visitors. My parents paid for the best room, the best doctors, and round-the-clock care, but nobody went to see him. Adrian's tricks no longer worked. I wanted nothing from the Bennetts, so I had nothing to lose. His schemes only made the family resent him and feel more guilty toward me. Soon, Adrian was gone in disgrace. The ridiculous drama was finally over. The only person I could not figure out was Clara. Through everything, she stood by my side. She defended me and even defended my biological family. She never blamed me for anything, which was very different from my past life. Maybe simply changing the setting had changed everything. It seemed my decision not to return to Washington, D.C. was the right one. In this life, I had my own money. I was independent. I was finally at peace. Why would I ever go back and suffer through that family again? Living a good life was enough. Eventually, my father and my 2 older sisters, Victoria and Veronica, left. But my mother and my 3rd sister, Vanessa, stayed behind. I understood my mother's reason. My disappearance had left a wound that never healed, and adopting Adrian had been her way of trying to fill that emptiness. Now that she had found me, she did not want to let me go. What I could not understand was why Vanessa stayed. In my previous life, she had always supported Adrian and blamed me first for everything. My mother and Clara spent their days drinking tea together while my mother cried and asked for every detail of my life. As Clara talked about our shared past, she began to realize how much she had missed and how deeply I had cared for her. But now, I only showed her the kind of affection one sibling might show another. That difference clearly bothered her. Then Clara's future husband from my previous life showed up. Their parents had arranged a meeting, but Clara had avoided him. Her father, knowing she was with me, only sighed and let it go because he cared more about her happiness than the agreement. The suitor was not pleased. Being ignored bruised his pride. But after seeing a photo of Clara, he became obsessed. He tracked her down and staged a huge public proposal right at the entrance to my hotel. Dozens of tourists filmed it, and the scene went viral immediately. I was inside when it happened. Clara pulled me outside and used me as a shield. But when I saw the man, I remembered how he kept a mistress and made Clara's life miserable. I saw red. He had chosen the wrong place to cause trouble. We shoved each other, and I landed 2 hard punches on his jaw. He threw out a few threats and ran off when the local security guard showed up. The guards knew me. I was the quiet owner of half the district, with storefronts all over town. My hotel was the best in the area. While other places struggled to fill $200 rooms, my $2,000 suites had waiting lists. The guards helped push the men away, and I later sent them cartons of cigarettes as thanks. I had always tried to treat people well and build good relationships here. In this town, people stood by me. At least here, no one could bully me. Soon the internet was full of gossip about our 2 families and our companies. I, the unlucky man in the middle, got dragged into it too. But not long after, every story about me and Clara was deleted from the web. I knew the Bennetts had done it. They had that kind of power. I did not thank them for it. I only wanted to live my life and let them live theirs. Still, I could not deny that I liked having Clara in my house now, even if she had taken over my bedroom and my office. Didn't she have a company to run? Watching her argue with Vanessa over who had the right to call herself my sister gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. Maybe it was because I had refused to return to their family so firmly. Or maybe the stories about my lonely childhood in the group home had finally reached their hearts. I imagined they felt a little guilt, just as they might have in my first life. But Adrian's influence had slowly erased that feeling before. This time, my refusal made their guilt stronger. And without being on their home ground in Washington, D.C., Adrian's tricks no longer had power. Nothing he said or did could hurt someone who refused to even acknowledge him as family. It only made the Bennetts think he was petty and unreasonable, which deepened their guilt toward me. I did not want any of it. I only wanted them to stay away. In this life, I was not going back. Whatever game Adrian wanted to play, I was not joining him. He could do his worst. It had nothing to do with me. Besides, I could play his game too. I could act like the victim just as well as he could. Over the next few weeks, every scheme Adrian tried fell apart. The family grew colder toward him. Even after Vanessa left to shoot a movie, Victoria and Veronica began taking turns staying at my hotel. I never reached out to them, but I could feel their persistence wearing me down. Still, I held firm. I would not acknowledge them. I would not go to Washington, D.C. Clara saw who Adrian really was, and she finally understood why the version of me in her dreams had ended up in prison and why I was so determined not to return to the Bennett family. As an outsider, she gave my sisters the most sensible advice of all. Leave me alone. But they would not listen. Especially Victoria. She was the one who had been with me the day I got lost all those years ago. Time passed. Life in the old district settled into small, interesting moments. The hotel cafe became the gossip center of the area, and I heard plenty of stories, including many about Clara. Her relationship with the men she had once been meant to marry completely fell apart. People often saw him harassing her, only to be stopped by the bodyguards who now followed her everywhere. One day, Clara insisted that I drive her to a friend's wedding and go with her as her date. That night, I noticed her suitor bribing a waiter to drug her drink. I accidentally knocked over a tray of glasses, shattering the champagne flute before she could take a sip. But my interference came with a price. The men had people waiting nearby, and they beat me badly for protecting her. I ended up in the hospital unconscious for 2 full days. The entire Bennett family rushed to my bedside. Within 26 hours of my admission, Bennett Corporation had launched a hostile takeover and ruined the suitor's family company. Clara's father personally made sure the man was arrested. With all the other evidence the police uncovered, it looked like he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Clara never left my side during those 2 days. She kept talking to me even while I was unconscious. When I finally woke up, she gave me a tired but relieved smile and then fainted in my arms. After that, everything changed. I stopped calling her sister. She started calling me by my name. Our bond grew stronger every day. The racing bike I had bought became our ride for late-night outings, with her arms wrapped around my waist as we sped through the city toward one place after another, our heartbeats matching. Meanwhile, Adrian, now losing favor with the family, made one desperate move to save himself. Just like in my first life, he tried to steal company secrets and sell them to a rival. But this time, it failed badly. My father and Victoria were already disappointed in him. At Veronica's suggestion, they had installed hidden security cameras all over the company headquarters. The cameras caught Adrian stealing data, not once but several times. Even after they sent him to prison and officially cut him off, I still had no intention of returning to Washington, D.C. or fully rejoining the family. So they came to me instead. Bennett Corporation moved its headquarters to New York City. They bought a row of connected townhouses in Rivergate Estates, a luxury development near Stonebridge Quarter, built a new wall around the property, and installed a private gate that opened onto the path leading to my hotel. A year later, after a long and relentless chase, I finally gave in when Clara proposed to me. We registered our marriage, and our wedding became one of the biggest events Stonebridge Quarter had ever seen. It spread across the internet. At first, people said I was a lucky man who had married into wealth. But when the world learned that I was the long-lost heir of Bennett Corporation, the tone changed completely. People began talking about me with admiration. I knew the Bennetts had leaked that information on purpose. It was their way of publicly claiming me. This time, I did not fight it. I accepted it quietly. My silence shocked them, but the surprise quickly turned into happiness. A week later, I brought Clara to their new home, and together we served tea to my parents.